Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Connecting the Dots. Woohoo! I'm so super stoked. I have Dana with us today.
Ah!
Yay! Dana, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself, and then we'll go ahead and get into our questions.
Okay. Hi, Mish. It is so good to see your face. Oh my gosh. So everybody who's watching, my name is Dana, and I am a woman in what is becoming long-term recovery from addiction, primarily from alcoholism. However, I use my recovery program to inform my relationships with a lot of things today, including food, including relationships, including social media. I mean, so it's dot, dot, dot for me all the way. um, my pronouns are she, her, and I live in Richmond, Virginia, on what was Monacan land primarily. And I am honored to be a leader for Y12SR, a leadership trainer for Y12SR, a member of 12 Step Fellowship, and an active yoga participant and student, right? All of that. A wife, a dog mom, all the good stuff. Yeah, all of it's possible because of my recovery today. So I'm excited to talk more about what that looks like.
Yay, awesome. Good stuff. I love that you're a dog mom. I'm a dog mom too, and I keep muting myself because they keep barking. So
Yes, and that might happen during this, so we'll work around it. I've
right,
learned to be flexible in these times with
that's
dog
right.
noise.
Yes. All right, good. So, if you are willing, would you please briefly share how addiction has affected your life and some of your experience in recovery?
So addiction has affected my life in so many ways, primarily as the daughter and the granddaughter of alcoholics. And it came to me in the womb, right? And probably even generations maybe before that. I don't even know. Um, but I'm a person who grew up in an environment where alcohol was used and abused. My mother was an alcoholic. My grandmother was an alcoholic. Um, and Yeah, I got to see, just as a very young person, firsthand what it looked like when people drank, socially or even in the home, and just like the changes that would happen and the disruption to the family unit and just like some fighting and just a sense of discord and mistrust. And it was really confusing for me as a young person because these were people that I loved dearly, and yet there were things happening and behaviors and changes and things that just they didn't square with me, with a feeling of safety and trust. And so really for me it installed kind of a deep sense of mistrust of my own intuition, my own sensations, because I felt like I almost had to change my behavior to adjust to make things okay. And that was a big driver for me, kind of early on. And so it really shaped me, into a good functioning codependent, which was the root, for me and sort of the backdrop for a lot of the reasons, why alcohol continued to have a really kind of a starring role in my life. When I was really young, alcohol was a way to be rebellious and to have fun and to kind of get away with some stuff. And it was fun for a time, it served that purpose. Later on in life, not so much. My mother passed away at the age of 50 from cirrhosis, and I was 25 at the time. And yeah, I think the next 18 years, what is 18? Am I doing some bad math? 13 years of drinking was really around unhealed grief, and like I said, it wasn't fun anymore for me. It really shifted from being sort of a social lubricant, something that made me feel like I could sort of relax and be myself and maybe even be creative and some other things, to being something else, and it was almost like a management, like a maintenance tool for me. And it was a strategy, that worked for a time until it started to have some consequences. And when I was I can get into the yoga piece later, but part of my story includes an accident during which I had a major head injury, and there were some physical consequences with that relative to using alcohol. I still drank for 5 more years. I wasn't ready, whatever. But for me, it really did start out from a very early age, and it just kind of morphed. It sort of like changed shape, but it was always present, and it affected my relationships. It affected my life choices. It affected this feeling that I had to like fix people and make things okay, and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm a dyed in the wool through and through alcoholic and codependent.
And I say this all the time, that our stories are different, but they're so the same. Oh my
Oh
God.
my gosh. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when you were talking, like, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it has a different face, and there's different lived experiences, but the commonalities, I mean, it's so nothing that I say is all that unique. Really, it's just unique to me.
Yeah. Yay. I know you were getting ready to get into this, but my next question is, would you please share a bit about your introduction to yoga? When, how, you recognize that yoga was a support to your recovery?
Yeah, so I think I realized that yoga would be a support to my recovery, or could be, the moment that I was introduced to it, sometime around the mid 90s. But of course, by then, the throes of addiction they really had me. My alcoholism and my patterns were well grooved by that point, and I would dip in and out of yoga. I found it really soothing physically, energetically. I felt that it helped me to feel really present, but alcohol ruled the day, for me. And so, it kind of took a back burner for a number of years, although it was something that I dipped into and out of for a long time. I studied religion in college. Psychology and religion were my majors. And so I was really interested in sort of the philosophies that sat underneath yoga. But for me, there was such a block personally with my behavior, and just an inability to really look at my patterns, that it was almost like, until I was ready to do that work, for me, it was the 12-step program, but until I was able to do that work, the yoga could only go so far. It was never going to get, to that deeper level of transformation and healing. So I needed both, it turns out, but I came in and out of yoga, for a number of years, and then had my accident in 2007. And then very soon after, because yoga had helped me so much to rehabilitate from that accident, and helped me get my balance back, my confidence back, my sense of steadiness. It even helped heal some connections in my brain relative to language and my mood, and lots of other things. That it was something I wanted to give away, right? So like I immediately went from this thing helped me to let me help other people with it, right? Like, so from like A to Z, right? Real quick. And that's a pattern. That too is a pattern. And so I remember wanting to do that, and that coming from a pure place, but then also from this pattern, of like wanting everybody to feel okay too. Right. And so it was like that for a time. One of my teachers, before he even knew he was one of my teachers, was Rolf Gates, right? And so I read his book, Meditations from the Mat, and he talks about addiction recovery in there quite explicitly, in some areas of the book. And he goes through the yogic path, and I found it so useful to use that book for yoga classes and for my own personal use. But I would always flip over the parts where he talked about addiction and recovery, which is just so like such denial. Right, that doesn't really apply to me, but I knew, there was something there. And Rolf always, when I ended up doing my 300-hour with Rolf in addition to my 200. And I remember Rolf talking about Nikki, and Nikki this, Nikki that, Nikki Myers this, and the conferences and the things that they were doing together. And I just found that she was just a figure that I was interested in learning about her and meeting her. And I had the opportunity to do that in 2011. And so Rolf kind of brought Nikki and I together. Notice that like both of these two individuals are people in long-term recovery. right? Teachers, right? Yoga teachers in long-term recovery. And I'm so grateful for that, because their honesty and just their presence and their authenticity, and their willingness to just talk about really, it's really about integration, right? Recovery. So like the stuff that they like, and the stuff that we want to exalt about ourselves, and then the things that we want to sort of hide or minimize. There was none of that with them. It was just all part of the same whole. And that was a big teaching for me. And so that's really where the yoga piece started to come together, where I understood that yoga is really a system of practices and beliefs and body, mind, breath, spirit, all of it, that really establish a sense of wholeness. And for me, that's where the healing really could happen. But it had to come full circle for me in looking at my own addiction and really kind of getting there. So I'm so grateful, but, I'm a person where yoga was definitely in place way before, any 12-step process. So maybe I used to think that was backwards, but now it makes perfect sense for me that it came that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me about when you took your Y12SR training. When did you take it? Where? Why did you take it? And then, really, I really want to know about your intention when you signed up for it.
Yeah. My intention when I signed up for it was that I wanted to help those people. Right? I wanted to help addicts and people affected by addiction, because I knew it was a part of my path, but I wasn't yet. Again, I still wasn't sober, right? And and meeting Nikki through Rolf and all of that, it just made sense to bring her here to our hometown and to have her in our studio, which she did a number of times. And I remember, you may have heard me tell this story before, but I remember on a lunch break, Nikki, I remember having a conversation with Nikki about wanting to do this work and to help people. I think this is obviously like maybe the first training that I took. I took it a couple different times, and it was different each time, which is very interesting. But the first time I remember saying, I really want to do this, but I don't know anything about the 12-step fellowship. I don't know the lingo. I don't know what it is. I don't understand it. I don't, so what do I do with that? Right. Which is interesting as a leadership trainer. Now I get that question all the time, and I know how to answer it from my own experience. And that's really it. Right. But it's what Nikki said. And she said, you might benefit from some open 12-step meetings, and she knew my family history because we talked about it in the introductions, and she and I had some conversations. And I really began to realize that I did need to start to dip my toe into the recovery water, like a little more deeply. And it had to come from that place. And so I started going to a family group, right, for addiction, for alcoholism. And I spent 6 months, just doing that work. And that was in February of 2012. And I remember feeling such emotion those first 6 months, all emotions. And the one that I really noticed the most was shame, just the way that, the path that I had chosen and sort of the continued addiction and everything just had really rooted itself deeply in my body mind system, right? It's a continuum, and I knew, and I could feel it, but I couldn't still even give voice to it. So I knew that because this kept coming up, that I needed to do deeper work, and so that's how I got into the 12-step fellowship that I needed to be in around alcohol. So I'm grateful for that. But it started with me wanting to be helpful to people affected by addiction. And I realized that it very quickly had to be about taking care of myself first, the oxygen mask, right? And I'm grateful for that learning. And now, I think the people that know me now would really understand that I don't have like a fix-it bone in my body. It's really about shared experience and dissolving isolation and creating community, even in the virtual space these days. So yeah, so it's been an evolution for me, and it is a we program, 100%. It's not about me fixing, helping, healing anybody. It's about being a service because that feeds my recovery, and just holding the space.
So there's my dog whining.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. The little dog here at my feet has been really quiet the whole time.
That's right. So you said 2012, that's when you took the training. How long have you actually been holding space? And then just share a little bit of some of the feelings, experiences, knowings that come from being a Y12SR space holder. And then after that, I'm going to have you talk about some of the things that you're doing within Y12SR, your meeting and your workshops and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I had a couple false starts, because again, I wasn't well established in my own recovery program yet, where I held space and held some meetings, and it didn't feel right. And the reason it didn't feel right is because it wasn't right yet for me. And the timing, you know when you're ready, you just know. And so probably like 2011, 2012, after I took the first training, I think we did a few, and then got into my own recovery program, and then got a bit more well established. And then so like 2012, 2013 was when things started to get a little bit better. And then as time went on, because I realized that to be a space holder, I really had to keep doing my own work. So the process kept regenerating itself. For me to hold space, I had to give back. I had to pull back, and for me to pull back, I also had to keep reaching out to others as well. So it was a nice circular effect that really, it created a good positive energy around my own recovery and my own healing. And so that became an important motivator for the work, that I knew that in order to show up for others, that I had to keep showing up for myself, and so I've been doing it since then. And then there was a time when I wasn't leading meetings, and then because I was doing the leadership trainings a lot, and so I was not doing regular meetings as much, subbing here and there and that sort of thing. But then when 14 months ago happened, it's now May of 2021. So when March of 2020 happened, and we thought maybe it'll be 10 days, maybe it'll be a month, maybe 6 months, so the time just kept extending. But in March, my friend Cheryl Donnelly, who I co-lead the meetings with, we talked, and this was kind of her idea. And I was like, yes, I'm game. I want to do online meetings, and let's get it going. And not knowing where it would go or how long it would last or whether people would like it or buy in or come or show up or whatever. And they did, and it's been a nice rotation of folks in the group, some regular, some not regular. And we've been doing them, now for 14 months almost, which is kind of crazy. And it's a Tuesday meeting. It's 7 p.m. Eastern time, and it's usually about a 90-minute meeting, 7 to 8:30. And we usually do a meeting first with a topic or a speaker, and then we do a yoga practice. So when we have a bonus Tuesday, so the months where we have a fifth Tuesday, we do a longer restorative practice, which is folks have seemed to really like. So because who doesn't need deep rest and restoration right now? Like, this is a time when we need that a lot. So we've been incorporating that more and more. So that's the regular meeting. And then I think your next question was, what else? What are the other things that I'm doing? Yes. So the meeting is kind of like, it's like sort of like the engine that keeps churning. And then I love coming in and doing the workshops around yoga, writing, and recovery. Writing has been a part of my life since I was a kid. It's something that I walked away from, during active addiction, but it was something that I always wanted to come back to. And it's been a big part of my recovery for a bunch of years, and just sort of on my own and in groups as well. And it's something I've always wanted to integrate, because some folks are just really great at communicating through the written word. And it can be very, very healing to share our stories in space, in shared space with one another. And when you pair it with the breathing and the space and the meditation and the movement and some themes and concepts, it creates that little bit of integration, within. We talk about the dimensions of being in Y12SR, the 5 bodies, and it really brings in all 5 bodies. So it's been fun. So I'm doing the next workshop that I'm doing is June 2nd, and it's from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And I'm calling it Beginner's Mind. I only teach things that I know I need to learn more about and I need to practice more. There are things that are like active in my own practice and work. And it's something, beginner's mind is something that in this time, this whole past 14 months, is something I've had to come back to because, step one is powerlessness, right? There's just so much that so many of us have so little control over. And so even just like coming back to the absolute basics, has been critical for me, because otherwise, you fly off into thinking that you can get a handle on this thing. And really, for me, it has been one day at a time. So all of that has been beginner's mind. And so I'm interested and excited to introduce that topic. And so that's just a workshop. And then a little bit later on down the line, we'll do another series. So it's usually a 6-week series. This time, I think we're doing 4 weeks for summertime because folks are traveling more and all that. So we'll do a 4-week series for the summertime coming up a little bit later. And usually it's a group where we do timed writings. We share, we do share our writings, and folks, kind of break through that little wall of fear. And usually it's really interesting what ends up happening in the course of the time that we have together. So those are like the big ones. And then of course the leadership trainings, which are sort of on a rotating basis. I think there's another one coming up with me at the end of the summer. So I'm excited about that. And I love all of it. And this is a family for me. It has been my recovery family, being a part of Y12SR, and being affiliated with Nikki and Rolf and you and all the others. I feel so incredibly grateful, to be a part of this and just to be able to have, any connection to it feels like a big win. So thanks for letting me share.
Oh, thank you so much. I do. I feel the same way. I mean, I was sitting here trying to think like, how long have I known Dana? And it feels like we grew up together, like we're sisters.
Yeah, big time. And we're the same age.
We are.
So like there's a relatability.
There is.
Like, growing up the way we grew up, and then being at the age we're at. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've loved getting to know you. Yep.
Oh, thank you so much for being a part of this. We're super excited that you are in our family and everything that you are doing to support the Y12SR movement. We love and adore you. Thank you.
Same. Love and adore you too. Thanks for the time. It's been fun.
All right, we're wrapping up another episode. See you next time.